Welcome everyone to another episode of My Blessing in Disguise 2020, a series of conversations with really interesting people who are up to inspiring and great things in the world. In these conversations, we reflect around everything that's happened in their lives and businesses this year. We look at what we've changed, what we've learned, what we gained, and maybe even what we lost, but we found out that it was beneficial for us to lose these things, habits, things that we thought we absolutely needed. And we're looking at what we're taking with us moving forward to 2021. So today I have a special guest for you. All my guests are special. I know you've heard me say it every time. My special guest today is Louise Johnstone. Louise is a personal trainer. She has been in this industry for many, many years, so she has loads of experience of working with many different groups as a personal trainer and also as a coach in the past, working with children, with people with disabilities. And right now, her focus is on working with women. Using all the experience that she's gained through the years as well. Louise is also a huge mental health advocate. She runs experiences, and currently she's actually working on a challenge that was supposed to happen this year, and it's moved on to the next year because of COVID. And it's all really, really exciting. So Louise, I will hand it over to you and let you share with us what else would you like us to know about you, or maybe something that I maybe mentioned and you would like to kind of explain a little bit more about.
Thank you very much for having me on. I think you actually did a fantastic job of introducing me. I mean, it was so eloquently put. So as you mentioned, I'm a personal trainer. That's a massive part of my life. Running my own business is a massive part of who I am and what I do. Brings a lot of joy to my life, and a lot of it's something I feel very privileged to do, you know. And I think hopefully you'll see through my discussions and our chats and stuff like that actually it's a very, I truly feel like it's a very privileged job to have, because we get to be a part of and hear people's stories, people's fears and their dreams, you know, and those are two very difficult things to share with people, you know, and we get to be a part of that, and we get to be a part of an evolving life story. And just, you know, I feel very fortunate that the people that do choose to work with me choose me to be part of that. And I think that's something really special to hold and to be a part of. But also what I do is I do adventure running, usually some big, crazy, pardon the pun, challenge running normally, but sometimes other sports or other activities to sometimes raise money. Sometimes it's just for the fun of it. And a lot of people call what I do, it wouldn't be their cup of tea, as it were. They would choose something else to have fun. But you know, it brings, there's so many aspects to doing running, adventure running, and being physically active that I hope that I can share some of that, and some of my insights and experiences will hopefully inspire or activate some thoughts in people that might make them think, well, you know, maybe that will help me, or maybe I can take my first step towards being healthier and fitter, you know, just by hearing this conversation with us.
Thank you for sharing that. And oh my goodness, so many things came up for me as you were sharing. First of all, what really stood out is that, you know, there's something much deeper behind the work you're doing. And I just love what you said, that you feel so privileged to be a part of people's stories, like, and people's kind of transformations, because when you think so my first thought when I think about a personal trainer is someone who's really into fitness and sports, and it's so easy to just brush it with, like, you know, kind of one brush sort of thing, and it's actually there's so much more into it. So it's so important because people actually really go through these transformations, and it's part of sometimes dropping a big story and leaving a big story behind, and forming this new life and new story, like in the now, for themselves, and you get to be part of it. That's so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it's such a, you know, and every person's unique, and that's what it makes it amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like people say, how, like, do you not get bored? Because people do come in with similar goals and aims.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might start off with, you know, people want to lose a bit of weight, or people want to get ready for an event, or maybe they want to reduce back pain or hip pain, you know, something like that, where strength is going to make them better. And yes, those are all similar, you know, people come in with those kind of surface similar goals, but behind that, you have to then work out how to move this person forward beyond where they are. And that means understanding the goals, truly what motivates them and what will help them to be proactive, and what kind of environment that person needs. And that environment in no way is the same from one person to the next person, even if two people come to you with, I want to reduce back pain, you know, what they need, each person needs to then take that step to overcome their fears that they've built up from having back pain, you know, the tensions that they've built up in their body. How to overcome that and release that is different for each person, and that's what makes it like truly remarkable, I think.
Yeah, gosh, it just like makes me think that you're actually not just doing like fitness work, but you're almost like a therapist for them, or a coach, like a life coach, because you're kind of digging deeper into, you know, what they need, what's possible for them, and maybe what's holding them back on a deeper psychological level as well. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's very I think a lot of what personal trainers do is mindset. And I think actually, I don't know if it was your last or one of your other interviews that I saw, and it was your friends Ben and Marta, was it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a big part of his business was obviously mindset.
Yes.
And I truly believe that behind everything, all our decisions, all our goals, you need the right mindset. Because if you don't have the right mindset, none of it will stick anyway. None of it will change anyway. You know, you might have temporary change, but unless you engage your mind, the way you think about things, your drivers, you know, and understand your barriers, you know, I think it's very difficult to make long-term change unless you face those things.
Yes, that's such a good point. Yeah, as my friend Adam would say, who I actually interviewed as well for this series, he always talks about updating or fixing the operating system rather than just working on the apps, right? Because when the operating system is fixed, then everything else follows. That's yeah, cool. Yes. Okay, so Louise, there was actually one more thing that you mentioned that was really really stood out for me as you were talking about your work. Was gosh, you know, I just like it just literally escaped me. But let me think. Okay, sorry, scrap it. It will come back to me later, so I will mention it later. Okay. I wish I could cut it off, but we're just I'm not editing this, so anyway, that's the beauty of doing something kind of live. Okay, so how's this year been for you, Louise?
Ups and downs, highs and lows, peaks and troughs. I think you know, it's been a bit of a it's kind of like a whirlwind, isn't it? You're kind of like, I really feel like we were in March and now all of a sudden we're in December, and it feels like the world kind of stopped, but it didn't. You know, it's like almost a day would seem really long, or a week would seem really long, but then all of a sudden you'd be weeks and months on and you'd be like, how did this happen? Everything has kind of stopped. So it's been a bit of a, I think like most people, it's been a bit of an adjustment. But, you know, with that, I've tried to maintain a bit kind of growth mindset approach, I guess would be the kind of a word that most people would connect with. You know, trying to find opportunities in difficult situations. Kind of, I'm very much a give me solutions, not problems kind of person. So trying to find ways around barriers and obstacles and challenges you know, to create a more positive perspective on the situation. And I've just tried to do that all year. It's not always all year. It's not always been successful. And I think actually that's an important point, that a lot of people think, you know, often people mistakenly think that anybody who's got a positive mindset or a growth mindset either doesn't experience any negative experiences or challenges, or either just doesn't see them or doesn't recognize them. And it's not, I think it's important to recognize it's not about that. Having a positive mindset is often just about your perspective on situations. Okay, it could be it could be a pretty awful situation. You know, and a lot of people have had to face some incredibly difficult situations this year, changes to their lives and the people in their lives this year. I've been very fortunate not to have to do that, and I feel, you know, that's something I very much recognise on a daily basis. But I do try to just find opportunities in everything. I think is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm. That's so important to actually focus on this, like what opportunities can come from this situation, even if it seems negative, even if it seems difficult. You can always find something. What can I do? What else can I do? Maybe what can I change? So, what opportunities have you found for yourself in this situation this year?
So this year, I almost feel like I was thinking about this before, like we came on today, and I was thinking back over my year, and I guess this comes at quite a timely moment, doesn't it? Considering we're about to go into 2021, and this is a kind of it's where our heads take us back in reflection, back in an evaluation about what's gone, and as you said, kind of what you want to take forwards and implement in 2021, and I found it quite timely that we're having this conversation right now. It's quite amazing. I don't really do the whole New Year's resolutions thing. I don't believe in it. I think it's too pressurized. It's a pressurized situation. I believe in having goals all year, and that's how I teach my clients. It's, you know, goals don't just occur because a new year started. Goals happen because you want them anyway, you know. So for me this year, I feel like I had kind of focuses already. So kind of like, so at the start of this year, so if we go back to 2019, I had injured my ankle. I tore a ligament in my ankle, which meant I wasn't allowed to run. So as somebody who is very active and does all the running adventures, all distances, so I do everything from 5K to marathon to ultra distances to multi-day events to singular long distance events. So, you know, to take running out of the equation for me, which is also a massive mental health management tool for me, because it facilitates access to nature, to being outdoors, and just to me time and headspace. So come kind of Christmas, New Year last year, 2019, I was just starting to run again. Mm-hmm. So, you know, coming into the new year, I was like, right, let's go. So for me, the focus was purely on how can I create the best environment to allow me to run again, with a view to ideally leaving on the 2nd of May, it would have been this year, to go and do my 2020 Run North Sea Challenge. Mm. And that was the priority for my life until kind of lockdown. You know, albeit I was working in the background, you know, I was still carrying on with my business, but on a personal level, the focus was, how do I make sure I don't overload my heel, my ankle, and I create a situation where my body can recover and function on a level where I can be physically capable of completing my 2020 Run North Sea Challenge. So that had come under question, and wasn't under question whether I'd be physically fit enough until probably March, mm-hmm. which unfortunately was when lockdown occurred. So those two kind of coincided, knowing that I was physically fit, but also knowing that my challenge was in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. So no decision was made on my challenge until so it was April, May, yeah. So April is when I have a few friends who actually helped me with the organisational and the logistics of the challenge. So we as a group decided that obviously we would need to cancel it, but then it wasn't cancelled, it was just moved. Mm-hmm. It was never a case of, will this happen? It was a case of, when will this happen? Mm-hmm. So I did have a little bit of I had momentary tears. I'm not very much of a crier. So I had some momentary tears. You know, and Karen, one of my best friends, she said to me, well, at least you can, you know, move it back in the knowledge that it was in the same year as the only year that the Olympics had been cancelled. I was like,
that's comforting, right? It's not just your challenge.
Yes, absolutely. And I, you know what? I know in the grand scheme of things, my challenge is like a tiny droplet in the ocean. But nevertheless, it's important to me, and it's important to me in terms of the impact to other people that it could potentially have. Mm-hmm. Because the whole aim of the challenge is to increase the conversation around mental health and well-being. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's never going to be a bad thing. Mm-hmm. And then further to that, I wanted to increase people's awareness of the positive impacts that physical activity, exercise and sport can have on our mental well-being. Mm-hmm. And that actually it's accessible to every single person. I don't believe there's one person who can't be physically active, exercise or do sport. It's just about finding the right activity for you, the one that works for you, you know, and that's what it's about. And also I was fundraising for SAMH, Scottish Association for Mental Health. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the three target areas for the challenge. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to manage to achieve the potential of this project, you know, this challenge, which on a personal level, this is the biggest thing I will ever have done. But also in terms of, you know, just reaching more people and letting them see that actually we all have mental health. The conversation needs to be more real. It needs to happen more on a daily basis. And that's why that's so important. I mean, that's just a crucial conversation to be having all of the time, you know, and I just wanted to get that out there. And I guess it kind of felt like, oh my goodness, I've done all this training for nothing. The day after we had our kind of little mini meeting, you know, actually I just turned it around. I was like, right, what can I do with this extra time? How much of an opportunity has this actually turned into? You know, well, actually it's been pretty big. You know, so immediately I just turned my mindset. I allowed myself to be disappointed and sad about it, but then it was time to productively use that time and that focus and energy that I have and the additional time that lockdown created to reach more people, connect with more people, you know, perhaps get more people engaged with the challenge, and get schools on board, get businesses and organisations to contact me and come on board, individual, you know, groups that are attached to sports and running groups, and even individuals, for example, organisations, and they can get involved too. Like there's numerous ways all of these kind of different groups can be involved with the challenge. So I feel like the opportunity has, in some way, ticked a lot of my goals.
That's so amazing. So you know, because you couldn't actually do it, you decided to grow it, to kind of take it to a different level. And also, you know, you're saying that mental health is so important to you, and you know, this challenge was for that, to spread awareness. And oh my goodness, did this year provide opportunity for that, because there's so many people who maybe have struggled with mental health, but now it's like on steroids almost, you know, it's been highlighted. You know, like the focus has been on that, because people had time to actually slow down and notice it and look at themselves. Whereas I've noticed from talking to many people through my coaching work is that people often struggle with mental health, but they don't even know they struggle, because it's just always there in the background, maybe this anxiety, prolonged stress, but they're so focused on the task in front of them, everything that they're dealing with, that they just don't even know that that there is a a problem to deal with, kind of
Yes.
thing. So this year really put it out there for people, oh my goodness, to look at themselves and notice it. And now you doing this challenge and addressing this problem, talking about this, and also providing a solution in so many ways, because you provide a solution through physical activity,
Yes.
but also through fundraising to help people address this problem this way as well.
Yeah.
And I just also remember the question that I wanted to ask you before, because you mentioned it right now, that one of the things that you do through your work is bringing fun into fitness and wellness, and helping people find the right way for them, because it will be different for everyone.
Yes.
How to become fit. And it's so cool that you do it, because often getting fit and getting well is not fun for people. Like, people don't see it as fun. They see it as a chore, as something that they need to do, so that they postpone it, or they just they kind of escape from it because they're so busy. And
Yes.
you just help them find something fun about it, so that they they don't feel it's a chore or a really kind of boring task for them. It's almost like I sometimes call it in coaching, is we help people, like we basically sell them chocolate covered broccoli kind of thing. They buy chocolate, but they then get what they need. They get
Yes.
broccoli, right?
Yeah. I love that. I love that saying. I might have to steal that.
Yeah, chocolate covered broccoli or cheese covered broccoli.
Yeah. Oh, I like it.
So okay, so you found these opportunities there. I love this. But I also, what you said before is that you've been supporting people, your clients, through going through in going through difficult time, and at the same time you had difficult time yourself. Did you find it difficult, or did you actually find strength in it?
Wow, that's a really quite deep question. A really intuitive question, I think. I like that. So it was challenging. I was trying to provide some level of constant for my clients, and a bit of normality, because so much, because that's what almost anchors us, I think, to have some sort of constant and consistency carrying on through all of this turmoil and anxiety and change through their lives, and something that they know, which would be me and the training, because they know it and they do know how to do it, and I'm just there to support them, and perhaps ask the questions, which helps them find the answers. So yeah, I mean, that actually wasn't difficult. Challenging, yes, because of all the external influences that were coming in, and really wreaking havoc on people's mindset and the decisions and choices that they would normally make. So that, it was just kind of trying to work with all of that amount of information that was overloading people, and help them focus on the important, that important constant, which is their health, obviously. But on the site, I guess one of the things that came out of that is, firstly, so I have a community for my clients, and they all kind of provide a kind of internal support to each other. Mm-hmm. And that operates all the time anyway. That was already there. And they met each other through working with me. And perhaps pre-lockdown, they would have interacted maybe 2 or 3 times over a year at different events that we might have met up at. But I really felt like, and I'm sure lots of trainers will say the same thing, but I really felt like my community came into its own. They were just, I'm so proud of them. they just really, they stepped up like they always do. But perhaps I just noticed it on another level. I'm not really sure, because I know they do this all the time, but perhaps there was just more of a focus on it. But there's never judgment. It's always, right, what do you need in order to help you, whoever that is within the group, move forwards. And I've always felt like that extends to me as well, despite the fact I'm the trainer.
Mm-hmm. Mm. What actually came up for me is like you're the leader of the community, but you also draw your strength uh, from the community, and it's like seeing the impact of your work and you creating this community on every single member. That really keeps you going when things get hard, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that's it. I drew a lot of strength from it, but also they give me, if they know perhaps I need a little bit more space, or if I let them know that I'm struggling, because I did have struggle days, my mental health wasn't perfect all the time. They were open to giving me that space and flexible enough to give me that space too, and that's really precious to me, and it's so important to me. I actually almost get tears every time I talk to them about this, because it just made such a difference to me, to not feel like I had to pretend, and trying to push through these difficult times. I could go away and just maybe spend a mental health day. I took a couple of mental health days during lockdowns, and I didn't have to I didn't have to pretend it wasn't a mental health day. I could be open about that without judgment, and without question, which was just, I don't know, I feel like that's the first time I've ever felt like that, that was like so important.
You just touched on something so important. Sometimes people think that people who help others with mental health, or I mean to stay on top of their mental health, or people who help others, maybe to motivate them to build better lives, that those people have it all together, always, all the time.
Yes.
And I think there is a little bit of this kind of insecurity in people who work with others and help others, that if I show that I'm struggling, I'm going to lose my my authority, not authority, but my credibility maybe.
Yeah.
And I find this is not the case. And the more you talk about your own struggles, that you also have moments where you struggle, that you also sometimes need support, and when you can be vulnerable and ask for support or ask for space, I feel this is like the best thing you can do for your community, for your clients, because you actually show them the way, like you lead the way, you lead by example, and you show them that it's actually, it's not wrong, it's just being human.
Yes, you're totally right. And I have to admit, I was one of those people. Sorry, this is cheeky.
Oh, hello, Cheeky.
Cheeky is super important to me too, but she also is a feature highlight for all my clients.
Just like Millie. She's just lying here at my foot.
Yeah, absolutely. If Cheeky is not on a video, the first question I get is, where's Cheeky? We're not here for Cheeky, guys. But yeah, I must admit, I was one of those people that you're talking about. Like, so in the past, I've fundraised for local mental health charities in Dundee, and I set up Dundee Mental Health Awareness Week here. And I felt like a fraud because, like, I'm not recovered. I wouldn't call myself recovered, going by some of the terminology that's utilised now. And like, I managed my mental health, and I manage it. I work really hard to manage it, and I've had to work for a lot of years to develop the mindset that I have. This didn't just come overnight. This is something I've had to, work at and pay attention to, and just consistently put in the work over time, the small steps, So I felt like a fraud because I can't say I've fixed my mental health. I can't say I've gotten rid of those bad days. I can't say it's all good and it's all perfect, And for a long time I was like, oh my goodness, I can't. There's no way I should be speaking about this. I shouldn't be telling people what my experiences are or anything. So sorry.
That's okay.
My battery. I didn't realise I wasn't plugged in there. We're now plugged in and fully ready to go. I really had a period where I questioned that, and actually it happens, you know, every so often I'll have moments of doubt and question myself. And then I realised, actually, Louise, there's bigger goals to take on. Mm-hmm. You know, I think back to maybe, you know, I'll get the odd message from somebody who's listened to my story over time, or who has connected with me at some point on my journey of being more open, and something that I've said has made a difference to them, or something they've heard me say or written has connected with them and made a difference. And I think all anybody wants is if I help, if it makes a difference to one person, then it's got to be worth it, right? Mm-hmm. And all I'm ever trying to do is help people to be healthier and fitter, you know, be the best versions of themselves that they want to be and can be, you know, and I just push those fears back and I go and do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And then actually this year has shown me, probably one of the biggest things that this year has shown me is how much I've changed as a person, both about how mainly on a mindset perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, like to be able to apply the things that I've learned both to myself and to be able to help my clients and my friends, my rugby teammates, you know, just anybody, like, because I share all these things, I put them out on social media, and you know, and I'm very honest about my journey, so I'll put up the bad days and the good days, you know. Mm-hmm. I try to be as real as possible because, well, that's life.
Absolutely.
You know, and so I think that's a really good point. Is like, yeah, I used to be one of those people, but I don't know if you found this in your work, but often people think your mindset's stuck, that's it. Your mindset is what you have, here you go, and it's not changeable, it's not malleable, and it doesn't evolve and develop. But oh my goodness, yes, it can. It's so, you know, it's such a powerful tool that we have that a lot of us just don't use the capacity. Mm. You know, I feel like often I'm just touching on a tiny proportion of what I'm capable of. And, you know, I'm always striving to, right, how can I engage this a little bit more? How can I use this to help somebody else? How can I connect this with being physically active? How can I help this to tell a better story? And just, you know, I think mindset is such a powerful tool that we have. It's all about perspective, and it's not about pretending that bad things don't happen. It's not about saying everything's perfect. It's just, this is how I choose to deal with this situation. And this is where I can exert my control on the situation. Because yes, people, you know, lockdown, coronavirus, it brought a lot of control from external people, external circumstances. And as people, and individuals, we don't really like that. We don't like being told what to do, you know, but okay, here's our set of parameters. This is how I choose to deal with it. This is my exertion of control. This is how I can feel I am doing what I need to do to still be my best version of me, you know, and I think sometimes we just get stuck in what's being done to us, or what feels like it's being done to us, but actually, whoa, we have a lot of control. We have a lot of ways that we can change that. Maybe not change the hard circumstances, like, okay, the whole UK is in a lockdown right now. We can't change that, but we can change how we look at it. Absolutely. We can change what we do with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I love your series. I think it's so special to put a focus and a spotlight on those examples where people can maybe say, oh, right, they're a bit similar to me, or, oh, I used to think like that, or I did that. And, you know, and then they could take strands of that and try it out themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely, you know, you touched on something really important, is that often people create their experience of reality from outside in. So they react to the outside circumstances. They think they're victims of the circumstances, you know, that life happens to them, and it really takes away the responsibility or the agency, you know, any power to change anything. And actually, when you start looking at things from inside out, because this is how we really create, like how we really experience our reality from inside out. So through our thoughts, through you know, the thought is the filter. Yes. How we see our reality. That's why two different people will see exactly the same situation and experience the same situation in completely different way, because they think about it differently. So when we start to see, like, how can I change the way I look at things, so that the things I look at change, So it's not about, changing the content of things in your life. It's just changing the context, and context is how we look at things.
Yeah.
So moving on, I wanted to ask you, because you kind of touched on it, what you've learned from this year, because you said, like, oh my goodness, this year I really noticed how I changed. So I would like you to speak about this. So what you've learned about yourself and what you've learned about the world, people you see out there this year.
Oh, yeah. So the biggest thing was about actually how it's almost like the biggest, as I said, the biggest thing was my mindset, realizing that actually I feel like all the skills I've been developing have helped me this year. But I've also, seen so many more opportunities, and I've done things that make me uncomfortable. Like, one of the hardest things I find is slowing down. I like being distracted, and I think a lot of us do, like you said. And actually, I took the time to slow down, and I would go for walks in nature. So I'm quite lucky. I live less than a mile from a local ponds, which has loads of birds on it. It's a bit like a soap box every week. And that's how I describe it. It's like a developing soap story, with all the animals that are there. I've really taken nature on board. Like, I've always been very, what would be the word? Like, very stimulated or encouraged by being in nature, motivated. And I find myself really at peace when I'm out in the hills, out on trails, surrounded by nature, I guess, and seeing nature in its own environment and existence. And it just lets you see that, it felt like our world had stopped, but the world didn't stop. The world carried on. Nature carried on. Trees, plants, flowers, they all carried on growing. They all continued to be stimulated by the changing seasons. At the local ponds, I saw birds go from kind of sitting on nests to having babies, to the babies growing. The fights that go on in that area, the continuing kind of struggles that they faced, nature, and the kind of also the influx of human presence because people were off, and how they reacted to that, and then you saw them going through the cycle again and again, all within the summer months, so when you're in nature, you realize we're so tiny. We're such a tiny part of the world, and nature, and just existence, and it's quite grounding, and just taking the time to notice everything, just as much as I could on every walk. So I would go out, for example, on my walk or run or cycle, whatever I was doing, and I'd be like, right, today I'm going to notice colours. Right, so I'd walk down the street. Now, pre-lockdown, I had walked down the street numerous times, and there were several gardens on the left which I passed, and I was like, how have I never noticed these before? I mean, these people maintained the most amazing gardens, and it became such a joy for me to just walk past them. And I think I stopped and took pictures of the roses every day, which seems like a daft thing to do because it's almost the same picture every day, but it's not, because every day I felt different. Every day the sun was in a different place. It was maybe dull, it was maybe grey, it was maybe raining, or it was maybe a bit frosty, whatever it was, So yeah, it maybe looks like the same picture, but actually it wasn't.
So interesting, so amazing how we miss things because we're just so preoccupied. We're so in our heads often, or we're just so on autopilot sometimes, right? At the moment you slow down, you start to see things so clearly, and it's it can be like physically, but also we gain clarity in our in how we see things. you know, when we slow down a little bit as well. It's just such a great analogy, right?
Yes.
That's really beautiful that you had this opportunity this year to do it and slow down a little bit and gain that clarity. So what's one piece of wisdom or advice you would like to share with everyone who's watching, that you kind of took away from this year?
Wow.
And you're going to kind of use moving forward?
All right, it's kind of a, right, my one piece of wisdom or recommendation or suggestion would be to look at your mindset or perspective, to check your filters. And by that, I mean, like you touched on it yourself, what is it that governs how I look at things? You know, is that holding me back or is that helping me? You know, because if you can open up your filters, you know, and be open to experiences and opportunities, then you have no boundaries. You know, you have so much capacity. And
so
you have control over that.
Yeah, that's wisdom. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Louise, for sharing everything with me, for sharing your story, sharing about the challenges of this year and your challenge as well. So before we wrap up, where can people find about your challenge? Like if they wanted to maybe contribute or maybe took part in your challenge, where they can find you online?
So you can find me on Facebook, and the page is 2021 Run North Sea. And there you will find a bit of explanation about what the challenge actually is that I'm taking on board. And if you go through the posts and as the updates come, there's more suggestions, for example. On Instagram, I am at silverfoxm3h.
Cool. Love the name. So if you could send me the link to the challenge, I will also post it under this recording in the comments.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me, Louise. I'm so honored. And thank you everyone who's watching. This is the last interview, so we're wrapping up this project. Thank you. I hope whoever's been watching, you found something for yourself and you can use it moving forward to 2021. Louise, all the best with your challenge. Happy 2021. And for everyone who's watching also, I hope this year is going to be beautiful for you. Sending you loads of love and see you next year.
Thank you.